Welcome to another live edition of On the Community. Of course, I'm your host, Sean Anthony, and today my special guest is Miss Caroline Bennet, who is the CEO of Caroline Inspires LLC. And today we're going to talk about Black teen suicide prevention. Caroline, welcome to On the Community. How art thou?
I'm amazing. Blazing, how you doing?
I'm doing grand. Thank you so much for
Good.
taking the time out to join us today. So tell me, how did this creation of Caroline Inspires LLC, how did that come into fruition?
Oh man. Well, so in 2015 or 2014, I was selected to be Miss Black Oklahoma U.S. Ambassador. So I'm originally from Oklahoma, North Tulsa, Oklahoma. And part of the pageant required for us to, come up with a platform. So Caroline Inspires. Inspiring others is something that I think I was called to do. Not even think what I know that I was called to do. Inspiring others is something that I know that I was called to do. And so I'm obsessed with my name. And so you put Caroline and Inspires together, you get Caroline Inspires. It started off as a platform using social media. Every Thursday I would sing. I sing or do poetry or I speak or I do something that inspires others. But then what I began to realize is that I work with a lot of young people, and I've been working with young people for the past 10 years, and they would go follow me on social media. And sometimes I would post a song or a poem of me singing, and then those same young people would then do a video of them doing the exact same thing of me singing. So I'm like, man, Caroline, you really do inspire, but like it's beyond just this platform on social media. And so Caroline Inspires is really a movement to get young people to use their voice in a positive way. And in particular, the young people that I am working with come from homes and areas that I come from. And so, yeah.
That's interesting. You talk about social media, and I've noticed over the years with the increased usage of social media, it definitely ties into anxiety, depression, things
Absolutely.
like that. We've also seen an increased awareness around mental health over
Absolutely.
the recent years as well. Suicide within the Black community, because suicide rates are increasing as well. How does your work help with the mental state of our young Black teens?
Yeah. So as I stated in the original question, a lot of the young people that I work with. So I'm from the hood, right? I'm from North Tulsa, Oklahoma, born and raised. The life expectancy where I come from is literally 14 years less than if I was living on the south side of town. And so a lot of the young people that I work with, they come from very similar environments where you see, high rates of prostitution, high rates of gang violence, infiltrated with, the truth of the matter is, with corrupt cops, drugs, you name it, parents who are absent parents, or just toxic environments or relationships within the home, parents, other relatives, whatever you call it. And so, one thing that helped me coming up, and one thing that these young people that I work with turn to, is using the arts. And so, singing, poetry, dancing, painting, anything that I do when it comes with young people and anything that I do for myself, I incorporate the arts because it's more than just a hobby. And the reality is, even in a lot of these schools, they've taken out the arts.
Yeah.
When funding got cut in the education system, arts was the first thing to go. You think about a lot of these rec centers that were open in the communities that I'm serving in, a lot of rec centers and areas are just shut down. And so what and who and where can these young people turn to? And one of the things that I push is letting them know everything that you need to be all right, you have within your reach. You don't have to go to as long as you got a journal, as long as you have a pen, as long as you have the willingness or just a pinch of the willingness to make it through and survive the moment, you gonna be all right. And so I incorporate the arts in everything that I do. And so one, it's pushing them to use their gift, their singing, their dancing, their painting, their drawing, cooking as a gift. But then also I put them in positions to be healed by the gifts of other people. And so taking them to events in the community so that they can receive the words of a Barbara Fant, so that they can receive the words of a Javier Sanchez, so that they can receive the words of a Trip Fontaine, because that's important also. Maybe this young person isn't an artist per se, but I know that the words of these other artists in the community can heal them and help them in their situation, especially given everything that they're dealing with mentally. These young people are dealing with a lot.
Yeah, and they've been dealing with stuff that none of us could imagine by
Yeah.
the way that technology has evolved. Caroline, what kind of impact have you seen on some of these young people's lives with your program?
Well, one, they're still living. So the biggest impact is that I can give the young people a call and literally hear their voice. And I say that not in this metaphoric way. I can count. I don't even have enough hands to count how many funerals I should have went to last year in 2020 because of the young people that I work with who either A, thought about taking their lives once, or B, they thought about taking their lives on more than one occasion. And
Right.
so for me, the biggest impact is because I have made myself available to these young people, because I have placed the young people in the care of other, people who are a part of my village, the fact that they're still living is the cream of the crop in terms of one of the biggest impacts in terms of programming. The other thing is that they see the future. They see the future not for what it is right now, but they see the future for what it can be. And more importantly, they see the future with the perspective of I have a lot more um, control and authority in my own future than what was presented to me. Because I think, part of this, when we get depressed, when we get sad, when we get frustrated, especially when it comes to young people, they feel like they can't control anything. I can't control that my mama, I don't have my license. I can't drive. I ain't got a permit. I don't have a car. I can't control the fact that I don't have food in my house right now. But what am I supposed to do? I can't control the fact that my lights aren't on. I can't control the fact that my mama, my daddy, my uncle, somebody is stealing my money. I work just to give. I can't control that. That becomes heavy on them. But the one thing that I strive to teach them, a lot of these things that it shouldn't be, they all material, and money gonna pass away. I have kids who want to fight their parents because their parents keep stealing the money. Kids ain't making no more than $8-10 an hour.
Mhm.
And you got kids who want to do that, but I got, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, that's all material. But peace of mind and hope and joy, those things, you can't put a price on that. So if you learn how to master that within, you're gonna be all right. Because the reality is you do have greater um you have more control over your future than you think you do. And so giving them to, okay, so I can think for the future. I don't just have to think for right now. I do the best that I can to help them avoid thinking about right now. A lot of them want to think about right now because they hungry. So they're gonna work just to get food. They need clothes. They literally need shoes. They literally need a bed. So their right now thinking is, oh, let me work to do this. I get to help them. I get to go get food, which is so last year last year was a blessed year for me in the midst of a pandemic, in the business. The Harmony Project had partnered with me in October, and I had received over $4,000 in gift cards, grocery gift cards, just to give to the young people that I was serving. In addition to that, I say there were so many organizations, businesses, and individuals last year when the pandemic hit. A lot of these young people who were, because like I said, I already work with those who down here in terms of resources, support, representation. So when the pandemic hit, they got hit the hardest.
Right.
If they were already down here when the pandemic hit, so furniture, evictions, having to move. I said, as an LLC, I'm not a nonprofit just yet, but as an LLC, you start out doing a lot of stuff out of pocket, or you can only do so so much out of pocket before you truly have to ask for help. And literally back to back, the five of the kids that I serve the most are like, I got to be out in 30 days. I got to be out in 2 weeks. We got to be out. And I said, what do I do? But one thing that I know, which is what I try to remind these kids, is that the community, your village will always come around. So last year I did a furniture drive where organizations, like I said, businesses I received over $10,000 worth of
Nice.
donations in furniture to give to these, to give to the families, not for them to buy at a cheap rate, to give to them. They need a bed. They
Yeah,
got to move. So, yeah.
that's awesome. Because I was going to ask you about how the community can help supporting our youth that are considered at risk. But before that, I want to ask you, what are some of the signs that you notice that you may see that others may not be aware of, that a teenager may be going through depression, on the brink of suicide? What are some things that you can share with our listeners and viewers? What to look out for.
Loss of appetite. It may seem simple, like, oh, they don't eat. Your body, our bodies are trained to do what we tell them to do. And so a lot of these kids, they're so used to eating one meal a day that it has become natural for them. Oh, I'm not hungry. When was the last time you ate? Yesterday. But they're not, they've been in that state for so long. So loss of appetite, that's not normal for somebody to just eat once a day. That's not normal. So when you add, like, and it sounds simple, but there's more to that, which is what it'll come out. So loss of appetite is one. If you see a kid that enjoys doing something, like they're at a high, they enjoy doing something, art, dancing, cooking, laughing, the simple things, and all of a sudden there's a drawback and they're not doing those things as much anymore, you might want to check in,
Mhm.
because the things that they love to do, that they do without you asking them to do, if all of a sudden they don't want to do it anymore, you might want to check in. If you see a kid who was opposed to working, wasn't working, and it's like, you know what, I just want to focus on school, I want to do this, but then out of nowhere they're like, I got to get a job, I got to get a job, I need to work, I need to get, there's been a change, there's been a shift somewhere that has forced them go into survival mode. I have to take care of myself, I got to take care of my siblings. So
Right.
changes in rash changes in behavior, them taking on adult responsibilities, parent responsibilities, all those things that a young person shouldn't have to deal with, are things that will push a young person
Right.
in the direction of taking their own lives.
Wow. That's good, and I think it's important for our listeners to know those things to look out for. So, how can the community help with supporting our youth who are considered at risk, and supporting your organization?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, and I say community, on multiple levels, individually, through organizations, statewide, you know, we have to create more platforms and avenues. And I'm pushing for the arts, because a lot of these kids, these fast food restaurants are taking advantage of these kids.
What do you mean?
As in, I'm contracted in three different schools, for example, and these kids, school is from 8:30, technically until 3 o'clock. You have this asynchronous time, which, where kids get to work on their own from 12 until 3, but 8 until 11 or so, the kids are with the teacher. The young people are with their teachers. Well, these jobs will manipulate the young people. These fast food joints will manipulate the young people and tell them, if you don't come in at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 12:30, then I'm gonna fire you.
They do that?
I'm telling you,
That's
I've
crazy.
seen it all, I've heard it all. But the thing is, because our young people haven't developed the skills to say no, and
Right.
because our young people haven't been exposed to how much power they really have in saying, I I can't work between this time,
Right.
they feel guilty. And so they go to work and they go to work. And these fast food joints, here's the thing, because you think about who is the most readily available at 12 something, 1:30, these kids are.
Hmm.
These kids are, because if they leave the house, they're going to go, they don't have to worry about, as opposed to an adult who would have to make sure the other kids in the house are good. Who else can leave at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the day? Who else can stay until 10 p.m. at night? Young people. They're just available. But these fast food joints, they're exploiting them. And so the young people, I do the best that I can to get the young people out of thinking that you have to go. I'm a numbers person. They go work at these fast food restaurants, $8, $10 an hour. They slaving, they tired. These restaurants mistreat them. These restaurants put more responsibilities. You have teenagers. I'm telling you, I wish I was making it up. You have teenagers who are being put in charge of other teenagers. But the it's not the bad part that they're being put in charge of other teenagers. The bad part is there's not really any power. And the people who are being put in charge of the other teenagers are the girls. And so when the other young people don't do their job, who gets in trouble? The girl. Similar to what goes on in the house, especially with black girls. They're raised to Black girls are taught to be parent adult like figures more so than boys are. And so anyway, you go back to that. So you got these kids going there forced to do this. They getting paid maybe $200 or something every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks for working what, 20 hours, 30 hours a week. But because in school we don't teach kids how to save anymore, they working getting paid $200 every 2 weeks. Where does that money go? Because also mental health, these kids are self-medicating. That's where you turn to your drugs. That's where you turn to your alcohol. These kids are turning to. They don't know how to save money. They haven't been taught those things, so they turn to what helps them once again in the moment.
So, what
But
would you
when you
say to someone that's experiencing a crisis right now? What kind of advice would you give them if they're dealing with a lot of pressure and anxiety with their day to day lives?
reach out to an adult who wants to truly help them get them out of their situation. And that adult might not be your parent. It could be somebody in the community. It could be somebody at an organization such as Transit Arts. It could be somebody at an organization such as the Maroon Arts Group. It could be myself.
How can
Reach
people get in contact with you and your organization?
Absolutely. You can give me a call for starters. And I don't know if it's pilot. I tell my cell phone number because it is. You can give me a call, 918-698-7565, or you can send me an email at info@carolineinspires.com. I'm on social media. You
And
can reach out to me.
what's your social
Yes.
media platforms?
Facebook, Caroline Bennet, as well as Caroline Inspires. And then on Instagram, at Caroline Inspires. And then at Yes, Caroline Inspires.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking out the time to share all of this inspiration that you're providing for the young people. Are there any last minute words or information you want to share to our listeners?
Be be supportive of, there's a lot in the works right now. And so the last thing like when I say a lot in the works in the city of Columbus, there are a lot of organizations who are seeing the value in the arts, truly saving the lives of these young people. And so when these organizations put out events and opportunities, get your young person involved, share it with somebody. And more like one great example, I mentioned Maroon Arts Group, Transit Arts, because they're teaching the young people and they're paying, compensating them in a way for them to enjoy, where the young people can do the things that they love and get paid to do. But other organizations, and movements such as the Life is Better With You Here campaign, that is something that started last year, addressing the black males. The rate of teen suicide had tripled during the pandemic. But then the Suicide Prevention Center came back and said, yo, we want to work with black girls too. We want to prevent these numbers from doing the same thing that they did with the males. And so the Life is Better With You Here campaign, they are doing amazing work, truly incorporating the voices of the young people, truly incorporating the voices of the young people who are experiencing these things, and they are seeking to create opportunities to help get the young people out of those situations mentally and literally physically as well. So just be supportive and share if you see a post about, so it circulates, and specifically share it with a young person. The young people will push these things further than sometimes we adults will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Caroline Bennett, thank you so much. CEO of Caroline Inspires LLC. Thank you for sharing this information with us and on the community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.